Good evening, and this is December 4th, the Raynham Board of Selectmen's meeting. And would you all please rise as we pledge allegiance to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Gentle reminder that we are being recorded live by Raycam, which is our Raynham station. Minutes, please.
Motion to accept as printed.
And I'll second, and just for the record, too, that we are returning from executive session with nothing to report at this time.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Buckley is here with his monthly report.
Good evening. I have some updates from the Highway Department. I'm going to start off talking a little bit about the weather. As everybody's aware, we've had quite a bit of rainfall this year, and I was just looking at the statistics. 25 inches of rain in the Taunton area since September 1st, which is a little less than half of the total for the entire year, came in, in the last 3 months. So that's pretty significant. And looking back, I found some records from the Boston Water and Sewer Commission, and there's only been 3 years in the last 11 that we've had over 50 inches of rain, this being one of them. So last time it was this wet was 2 years in a row, 2010 and 2011. There was 55 to 60 inches of rain those 2 years, in each year. So pretty amazing. There was a lot of flooding back then, and we're seeing a lot of that now. Not quite as intense as that time frame, but still pretty elevated. I think 2 years ago there was 22 inches of rain. Or 2015 there was 22 inches. So pretty dry year in comparison. So.
When it rains that much, we lose a lot of trees too, don't we?
A lot of trees, a lot of limbs.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wind along with the rain.
The wind.
And the saturated ground.
I noticed
so
a lot on the driving around. A lot of the limbs were broken off, and trees were all leaning over.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time in the past couple months picking up debris, only to have it come back at us again with another storm. So we are out there. Actually, we had a plowing event already in November of all months, but one plowing event, 2 salting events, and just a lot of storm cleanup going on out there, and then continuing some of our regular maintenance activities in between, doing some catch basin repairs and some pothole patching before the real freezing weather sets in. So pretty well caught up on that stuff. We are still working on White Street. Fortunately, the weather has, despite all the rain, they've been able to continue on in between and make progress. Pretty good crew out there. They kind of jump around on different tasks depending on the weather, so they've been able to keep that going. And they're on Pleasant Street right now. We're doing a short piece of sidewalk from White down to Jackson Drive.
Right, I saw you at the corner.
Yeah, so, they'll be back next year to finish some things up, but that's the first layer on all the sidewalk will be completed probably by the end of this week. So we're pretty happy about that. Parks and Grounds, they've been busy with the same type of activities in the town properties, cleaning up limbs and branches and leaves, and they also did the setup for the holiday tree lighting last weekend. So
It was last Saturday.
they try to get that all. They did mention to me that the tree is about 30 feet tall now that we set the lights up on, and they do have some concerns about the health of that tree. So we're not sure how much longer that 30-footer will be there, but there is some damage on the tree that they noticed.
It's too bad.
Yeah. The brush dump is officially closed for the season, and the solar project is continuing. They're up there basically wiring up all their panels now. That project's probably going to go right to the end of this year, and then they'll be back in the spring to do some of the corrective work that we've requested.
No problems.
Well, there's some problems, but we're addressing
Nothing
them.
you can't handle. Good.
I think that's all I have.
Questions?
No questions, but White Street looks great, Ed. Appreciate your work on that.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah,
and that's all I have, Madam Chair.
I have no questions, but
Appreciate
thank you as always for all your efforts.
thank you. Yeah, and we're pretty happy with White Street, and there is still quite a bit more work to do. Actually, in the folder, I have a proposal there's a footbridge that we still have to put in to go over the brook at the sewer pump station. That, there's a culvert there, but it's not wide enough to accommodate a sidewalk. So right now, the sidewalk dead ends at that point, and we've been working with an engineering company for over a year now, looking at that footbridge, but we want to get that out to design this winter and try to construct that early next summer, and
Excellent.
that'll tie all that sidewalk together. So.
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Matt?
I have a few things, one of which I need the board to adopt the updated or amended food code that Mass DPH put through. And then also we have a hearing for the retail food regulation. So the first, of course, being Mass DPH in October 2018 adopted 105 CMR 590, which is the State Sanitary Code, Chapter 10, Minimum Standards for Food Establishments, as amended, which includes the FDA 2013 Food Code. So in order to proceed with the hearing, I do need that to be adopted for the town.
So moved.
A second, are there any changes from what exists right now?
For the most part, no. The state did make some changes. Mainly, the main changes are what's considered a food establishment, and therefore what needs to be permitted and what needs to be inspected. So the two main issues that I see, one of which is on for the hearing, is related to the retail food.
Mm-hmm.
Any establishment that doesn't have or that sells retail food that's not temperature controlled, so potato chips, candy, soda, anything like that, under the new food code without a local regulation would no longer need a food permit. They would no longer be inspected, which can certainly cause trouble in the future. Two other major changes relating to the food permits. One is for bed and breakfasts, which we don't have a huge issue with in Raynham because our inns would still require a food permit. But it used to be you need a food permit if you were renting out 2 rooms, and I believe it was more than 3 guests. It was either 3 or 4 guests. The housing code also has similar language. They've now changed it to you have to rent out 6 rooms or 18 guests before you would need a food permit. So our inns certainly exceed that, so we don't really have any issue with that per se. And the third is relating to residential kitchens. The state has pretty strict guidelines as far as residential kitchens and what you can and can't do. And for the most part, it's anything that can be made in a residential kitchen is minimal, jams, jellies, muffins, things like that. The state has now said that any residential kitchen that's not making anything that's, again, time and temperature controlled for safety, no longer needs a food permit. So that's something that I'm going to have to address as well. I've started working on some language for regulation for the residential kitchens as well. I just want to include some other language in it more than just like the retail food, because there's just a lot of issues that relate to residential kitchens and confusion when it comes to what you can make and what you can't. So I'm just trying to include it all into one, and hopefully it'll help people in the future, when they come in for a residential kitchen permit and say, oh, what can I make, what can't I make, things like that. So that one I will have hopefully in the next couple of weeks for you to take a look at.
So you will have regulations, for example, somebody can't start a catering business out of their residential kitchen without getting a permit to do so.
Correct. So the way so if it was a caterer, unless it was just like cakes, things like that, they would still have to get a permit. So if they were making, trays of food, things like that, they would,
When they get these permits, you inspect, not you yourself personally, but your
either
assistant?
myself or Brian would inspect, absolutely.
Yeah, you do
Yep.
inspect the kitchen and the premises and all of that?
Twice a year, yep.
Okay.
And mainly the residential kitchens, it's concerning, even if it's not anything that's time and temperature controlled, because it's not a commercial kitchen. It's a kitchen in your home. People have pets, I do, and the regulations state you can't have pets in the area when you're cooking. Things still have to be separated. Anything you're using for your business needs to be separate from your personal use food, things like that. So right now, it makes me concerned that now there's no authority as far as what we can do. We have no right to go and inspect any of these residential kitchens. We only have, I think, 2 right now, and they renewed their permit and they're open to inspections. But going forward, I don't want any issues. So just want to make sure the language is very clear on that one. It's a little more specific. So, but yeah, they still definitely get inspected. So.
Okay, so this is the one that we have to approve now, is the state one, which we already did. We voted? No, Pat asked a question. Now
Correct.
vote.
Motion?
No, Joe made the motion.
Okay, second.
All in
yes.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, that takes care of that one.
And it was advertised in the paper, and I do have the sheets which I'll put in the file as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I do. So I can just run down a quick report of what's gone on the last month or so. Last month, we did 1 perk test and soil evaluation. Had 4 septic installations. 1 was repair and 3 were new construction. New construction mainly is up on Pine Street, on the Bridgewater line there. 3 Title V plan reviews, 2 nuisance complaints, both which are now in compliance. 2 Chapter 2 housing inspections, also in compliance. Routine food inspections are all on track. Brian's been keeping on top of the routine food. We had 2 food complaints, both which have been re-inspected or in compliance, and we're probably going to be following up with 1 extra re-inspection the next month or 2 just to make sure that they maintain their compliance. I attended the Mass Health Officers Association annual conference and had some good sessions on food, Title V, tobacco, things like that. So learned a little bit of good stuff and brought some things back and told Brian some information and like that. So renewals for the permits are all out right now for food, tobacco, septic pumpers, septic installers, and solid waste haulers. Most, I believe, have come back now, but I think we're still missing a few. And last thing I have is, I believe you may have gotten a copy, stable regulations. Talking with the town administrator and also the animal inspector, it looked like the stable regulations that we currently have had no section for any penalties or violations, which leaves a little bit of an issue for me to do any enforcement, which we do have an issue right now, and fortunately the stable is clean, there's no issues on that end, but it's a permit issue, and I have no enforcement to go after the person to try and get a permit. So that's what kind of sparked this. So I'd certainly leave it up to the board if you want to make any changes, if you want to go forward with it. If you don't want to go forward with it, that's fine. Personally, it's good to have the tool to be able to ensure everybody's in compliance.
Right,
So.
right, I agree. Have you had,
Yeah, I read it. I have no issues with it. The only change is as Matt alluded to, is the section on the monetary fines. I have no concerns with that. I think they're reasonable and consistent with how we handle other violations.
Yep.
The only question I had, Matt, was, and it doesn't change how I feel about this or not, but
Sure.
absent our ability to fine somebody, there's no overarching state regulations that we can rely upon. Hypothetically, if we
Sure.
didn't adopt this, there's nothing that we could work with, like DAR on or anything?
Not really.
No.
Yeah, I
That's
talked to the
interesting.
animal inspector for a while
Yeah.
about it, and there's really nothing for us to.
Okay, that's,
I mean, if it was a nuisance issue, like an
Yeah.
odor,
Yeah.
I could use the state nuisance regulations, and even that can be a stretch, and,
Yeah. But just
But-
because of permitting, it's kind of silent.
yeah. yeah.
I would motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye,
Great job, thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
thank you.
Did you have anything else, or
I
any
just-
questions for Matt?
Just have two reminders. One is it's still not too late to get your flu shot, so if you haven't done so yet, might be a good idea. And also, I've seen a pretty good amount of tick-borne illness disease cases come across, so just a reminder that I know it's getting colder, but ticks are definitely still active even through the winter, and just use precautionary measures, mainly any tick repellents, DEET and permethrin. And most important, just check yourself if you have been outside, or even your pets or your kids have been outside, just a quick once-over, just take a look, can make all the difference, so
I don't think they die in the winter, do
they
they?
do not.
No, they bury themselves
Yeah.
in the ground.
Usually a lot of like leaf litter and things like
Yeah.
that, they'll hide underneath, so.
And you gotta be careful of the dogs, too, going out into the woods like that, they come home with
So ticks can get on your animals, your dogs, cats, and then they come back in the house, and then, you can get a transfer from, of a tick from a pet to a child or adult in the home, so.
We appreciate that.
Thanks, Matt.
Good night.
Good night. We have an appointment for a constable for Daniel R. Sullivan, 123 Lakeview Drive, Raynham.
Motion to accept based upon the chief's recommendation.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Also have the, excuse me, appointments of the Government Study Committee. Let's see, I have a list of them. And this is the proposed Government Study Committee members. John Donahue, Town Moderator and former Selectman. Barbara Gallagher, former tax collector and member of the 2002-3 Government Study Committee. William Lewis, former member of the Board of Assessors and member of the 2002 and 3 Government Study Committee. Gil Aligi, the Raynham Finance Committee Chairman. Linda DeMello, Raynham Finance Committee member. Brendan Loftus, Raynham Capital Planning Committee Chairman. John Noblin, Raynham Business and Economic Development Commission Chairman. Kathy Boyd, Resident Treasurer, Raynham Center Water District. Rebecca Mello, Resident Real Estate Professional. Susan Peabody, Resident Former Appeals Board Member. Ex officio members would be David Flaherty, Town Administrator. Michael King, Town Treasurer, and Bob Iafredi, Building Commissioner, Town Planning Assistant. That's a very impressive list you have here, Patricia.
Thank you. I
I'm glad you-
appreciate everybody
I don't know
who
how you
is
found
willing
them
to
all, but
serve.
Very
We
glad you
actually
did.
have only one elected official, several who are appointed, and I think the wealth of information and background experience that they bring will be very beneficial.
Oh.
And then we have actually every segment, we've got North Raynham, well-represented, Raynham Center, and South Raynham. So I think we've got a good comprehensive group there, and certainly people that have demonstrated a commitment to our town.
Right.
I'd motion to appoint as recommended.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Well, my agenda's kind of crazy, but I'm just going to skip over things here. New business. What do we got for new business? The town meeting? You want to do
I
that?
just have the town meeting on my agenda. I don't have anything else,
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Why don't you talk about that?
Sure. It would be for two articles. The date that I would propose would be January 8th, 7 PM here at the Town Hall to deal with the sick time buyout of a firefighter and to allocate funds for architectural designs on the foyer of Town Hall. As most people who've walked through here know, that floods quite regularly.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and so it's been something we've been batting around probably for about 5 or 6 years now. So those would be, as we have on the draft, my recommendation of the two articles to move forward with.
And that would be your recommendation, January 8th at 7 o'clock here at Town Hall.
Correct. I'd make that in the motion if there's no objection from
Please.
the board.
And I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
David, would you please take care of that it gets to the right place? Okay, that takes care of that. Any old business?
I have none, Madam Chair.
No. I'm good.
Okay. We have a MAG Elite Football looking for tag day for December 5th and 6th, the 16th, no, the 10th, 10th and the 12th of December.
So moved.
That's
Second.
Bill Hackett. All in favor?
Aye.
We have a letter from Landy's Market saying their suspension will be on January 2nd and Monday, January 7th. That's okay with everybody?
Yep, no issues.
Okay. The Department of Agricultural Resources, evidently, one of our animal officers took the Officer Corps competency training, whatever that is. I had never heard of it before, but they passed, and that's Linda Brackett, right?
Motion to send a letter of congratulations to her.
Second that?
All in favor?
Aye.
I have a letter from Frank Ward at 248 Warren Street for a temporary mobile home. Sending this letter on behalf of the Young family who suffered a house fire on 12/3/18, leaving their home unlivable. The Youngs would like to install a temporary mobile home to be used as living quarters while the family rebuilds their fire-damaged home. They will need this mobile home for 9 to 12 months. According to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A, they are allowed to have this for up to 1 year. The utility connections for the mobile home will be connected to existing utilities on the property. A licensed plumber will be making a water connection to the main water service in the basement and connecting the drain line from the mobile home to the existing sewer line on site. The electrician will make connections to the existing service in the house. Utility connections will be inspected by the plumbing and electrical inspectors. What say you?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have anything else?
Town Administrator's report, Madam Chair.
The what?
Town Administrator's report.
Oh, are we gonna let him report? What's he gonna say? You got anything to say?
Shall call, Madam Chair.
Not much, Madam Chair, but thank you.
I'll let him, because it's short.
Some ongoing information. There's going to be a new implementation of messaging for town hall employees on days that the town hall needs to be closed due to a snow event. I've sent out an email to all town hall employees and department heads describing all you need, and also for residents of the town, all you need to do is call the main number here or any department number, and you'll get a message if indeed the town hall is closed, that it is closed, or if it's opening late, then you'll have information for that as well. If you don't hear that message, then that means town hall is open. Also, in order to make sure it's redundant, I'm going to make sure that the message is on the website as well, and I can do that remotely. So onward and upward with information for Town Hall. The ACO vehicle has been finished, and there's just some minor adjustments to the lights on the roof, but that should be accomplished either today or tomorrow. And a big thank you to the Raynham Fire Department for changing the parking lot light bulbs. They were much needed. And a reminder, I haven't heard any updates, but I believe we still need 2 more members for the Historical Commission. The Council on Aging needs 2 associate members, and they're still looking for a director for the Raynham Food Basket. Next Selectmen's meeting will be a week from tonight, December 11th at 7 p.m. Sursage meeting is tomorrow in Mansfield in the morning, and the Southeastern Mass Health Group meeting will be Thursday, 9 o'clock in Seekonk.
A couple of questions that I have. Would you please mark on your sheet, and I'll say it now, but cable also needs a member.
Cable?
We're still
Okay,
missing a
thank
member.
you. Cable Committee?
And on this snow day message thing, can you do robocalls?
I've spoken with Tim, our IT
Yeah.
whiz kid, and there is a definite possibility we can, but I want to make sure it's approved by the chief of police and fire chief as
Doesn't
well.
don't they do it?
They do it, but I think they use it for emergencies. I would be a little hesitant to start using them just for a normal closure, because then what you see is the impact of those calls being diminished if there was an emergency. So I think it works both ways. You want to educate people, but using a resource.
I was just
No, I
curious,
know,
to know whether or not it was a possibility to do that.
They have a service now where, I think the license to use this software costs just a little bit north of $800 a year. So we may be able to piggyback on that if it was just to go out to department heads and town hall employees. I can't really do the whole town,
No, you wouldn't do,
but,
if you just designated the people that worked.
but it's because it's their project, I wouldn't want to step on their toes if they felt a little
Okay.
funny about it,
Yeah.
so. I think the way I'm doing it will be pretty good, but certainly if it needs, some expansion and some modification using that system, I'm sure the chief will.
I was
expect-
curious, because I said,
Yeah, that
I
was the
know they
first thing
do
I thought
those
of.
calls for, different things,
Yeah.
the
And-
school closings and whatever.
And I considered asking the
Why couldn't they tag that
school,
on to school closings and say also town hall?
I considered asking the school, but because they go to Bridgewater as well as Raynham, it wouldn't really be
Yeah.
feasible.
Question answered. Thank you. That's it. Any other questions?
None, thank you.
Selectmen's report, anything?
Just very brief, Madam Chair. I had got some feedback on the 44 construction that I wanted to pass along, and I share the feedback. I think generally speaking, it's gone quite well. They've done a good job with the signage and the directions, and there really hasn't seemed to be any type of traffic delays or extended traffic delays. And part of what I was worried about too was the impact it might have on the businesses. But to me, it doesn't seem, from what I've been hearing, that there's been any impact. So I have to say, I think a good job to DOT in planning this and putting some systems in place to prevent issues that they've had in the past on public works projects.
agree.
So, and that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Pat, do you have anything?
Just the Southeastern Massachusetts Veteran Service Officers Association's monthly meeting will be held in Raynham tomorrow at American Legion Post 405. Looking forward to attending that. And our Raynham Association of Volunteers for Education had a very successful holiday craft fair on Saturday, and just thanks to everybody who participated. They had over 40 fantastic crafters.
They
and
did,
a huge
I know.
turnout of people from the community that attended, so it was a very
I know,
successful,
Carol, right?
very enjoyable event.
I usually don't go to that, because who wants crafts? You got enough stuff at home. I mean, seriously, I'm very serious. You have, my kids tell me, you bring one more thing home, and I don't know where you're gonna put it, So
But even
this
with
year,
all your holiday decorations, you still found something more
I
to purchase.
like I said to Carol, Carol, you said to me when we walked through there, you're not gonna buy anything. No, I'm not gonna buy anything. So $125 left afterwards. She said, and where are you gonna put that stuff? I don't know. But Christmas at my house is always kind of crazy. But it was a wonderful, wonderful fair. And I met that woman. I know you told me who she was, the very first one as you go into the gymnasium. And
Philomena.
Philomena. I had purchased items from her when she did a private showing at somebody's house that I can't remember whose house it was, on Hickory Drive. I think it was on Hickory Drive. She's wonderful, and her products are just so beautiful.
Robin Slavin.
Who?
Robin Slavin.
Yeah.
That was her house.
Yeah, it was her house that
She does a
that
great job.
I went to. She does a beautiful job. And I like crafts, and when you go, I spend some. Papachi did a great job. Dave does a wonderful
It was a
job.
fantastic event,
And you've
everybody
got
had a
great
good time.
crafters going there, so next year, everybody,
Yes, make sure, first Saturday in December.
make sure you go.
Today.
Don't be like me. Go spend a lot of money. That woman with the candles, she had beautiful candles.
Great things. And the town is looking so terrific with everybody putting out their holiday lights. It's just really nice just to drive around and see all of the effort that people put into
Yep.
making their homes look nice for the holiday season.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Somebody on the end of King Street just did their house, and it's all white lights. It's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know who lives there, but it sits in the back. It just looks so beautiful going by. You can't see our house, so I don't put any lights on. One little tree. No press?
Nope.
No press. I don't know what we're gonna have to do to get press. Maybe have a fist fight or something, and then we'll get some attention and the press will come, because so far we haven't gotten anything. Any emergency business from anybody?
None.
None. How about we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, sign the bills, no business
Did
thereafter.
we ask for public? Did we ask the public?
I just did.
Oh, you did, okay, thank you.
Motion to adjourn, sign the bills, no business thereafter.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.